Good morning and welcome to the Council of the Americas Symposium. My name is Jose Manuel Rodriguez. I'm a senior correspondent and anchor for CNN en Español, and I will serving as your moderator today. It's a pleasure for me being here. Thank you for coming to this panel titled Building a Customer-Centric Enterprise. This is a very crucial topic to many of your business because the experience economy has taken on a whole of different meaning in the digital area, where a new generation of consumers want convenience and, of course, speed. The use of artificial intelligence and predictive analytics to engage customer experience are key to staying on top. First, I would like to introduce my panelist. Paula Bellizia, Vice President of Sales, Marketing, and Operation for Microsoft Latin America.
Thank you.
Fernando González, CEO of Pemex.
Cemex,
I'm sorry. I've been covering a lot the Pemex lady with AMLO, sorry. Erika Herrero, CEO of Belcorp. Claudio Muruzabal, CEO of SAP Latin American Caribbean. And finally, Paula Santilli, CEO of PepsiCo Latin America. The first question is general for everyone. Let me start with Paula Bellizia, because we have two Paulas. What does it mean to be customer-centric enterprise? What's different now exactly?
Yeah. So first of all, good morning. I want to thank for the invitation to be here, and also to congratulate Council of Americas for the 25th anniversary, right? So it's a special occasion. So, having said that, a few thoughts that we have been developing at Microsoft. So I think right now, being a customer-centric organization means to be able to learn, right? Because again, I think it was mentioned before, but if you want to be customer-centric and you still think that you know everything, I think your chances of success are really lower, right? What we are facing today is that we reviewed our culture. I think to build a customer-centric organization today has everything to do with the culture. And our experience in terms of learning has been to put the growth mindset as the basis of our culture. The way that we want to be a learn-it-all company and not a know-it-all company. And it takes a lot for you. It's like a muscle that you need to exercise, right? Because otherwise you keep thinking that you know everything. And this needs to be also coming from the top, from the leadership as a role model, because otherwise it's not going to permeate the entire organization. So I would say that has everything to do with the culture, has everything to do with learning, and even with technology, and we are obviously a technology company, technology is actually just a tool, it's true, and needs to be serving to this purpose, right, of the transformation in terms of what is the end goal. So that's how we view.
Thank you, Paula. Fernando, what do you think about this matter?
So listen, Jose Manuel, first of all, I too am very privileged to be here with all of you, because we are here from our perspective for one purpose, and that is we are here to create growth. At the base of the pyramid of customers and consumers in Latin America, they all need our collective help behind this agenda. How does a company like PepsiCo help the customer at its center? Let me give you one story. So we have enormous amount of data. Are we keeping it to ourselves, or are we sharing it with the customer to understand how to generate growth? Today, our internal data, external data, Google Maps, census data, we go to the little store at any street in Bogota or any street in the north of Mexico or south of Guatemala and tell Doña Lupita, listen, from all this information that we have on your area, we think that these are the products that you need to sell. How about we try this thing, no? So Doña Lupita carefully reviews what we're suggesting and actually does something with that data. She changes her portfolio, she adapts her pricing, and bingo, we are seeing many of these customers growing up to 25%, no? And she's so happy because she can give better education to her children, improve her store, etc., etc. So that's That's the purpose of why we are all here, why I'm here. We have a power, and we have the obligation to use this power to the benefit of the base of the pyramid and within Latin America. Our consumers and customers are avidly waiting for growth, and that's our role.
Thank you, Paula. Let's hear Claudio Muruzabal.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. On the question of a customer-centric enterprise, why are we having this question? Aren't businesses focused on serving customers? That's why they exist. Nevertheless, if you ask consumers whether they feel that they have or have not a good experience with their providers, be it B2B, B2C, whatever it is, 80% will tell you that they're not. The experience is not good enough. Now, on the flip side, if you ask the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies whether they feel that they delight the customers, the answer would be that 80% would say they delight the customers. Now, if you ask the same question to their consumers, and this is actual statistics, only 8% will say that they're delighted customers. So you have this gap that you're dealing with, the 80% on one end and the 8% on the other end. Maybe the statistics is wrong. Maybe it's 40 and 4, or even it's 40 and 20%. But there is a gap. And the challenge that we face as business leaders is how do we understand, how do we listen to that customer that is expecting not only a product or a service, but an experience that comes with it at the same price or a lower price, and then be able to tackle that gap and address the market in the right way. That's really what customer-centric enterprises should be focusing on.
Thank you, Claudio. Erika.
Well, the way we see it, we have two key customers because we have the beauty consultant and we have the consumer. So for us, are equally important to really have a deep understanding on the beauty consultant and have a deep understanding on the consumer. And the way we see it is that everything should start from solving a pain point or a need or tackle an insight from the consumer or from the consultant, of course, and how we create an obsession in the organization to listen to consumer, to listen to consultant, and make sure that everything we do starts from that. We also believe that this is not only something from the marketing organization, really, it's across the organization. It's equally important for a person from finance, from logistics, to know as much from the consumer and the consultant as it is for the marketing organization. And we're also now adjusting our innovation development program so that we engage with consumers and consultants much earlier in the process, so that we really co-create and co-design, so that whatever product and service we bring at the end, it's going to be like, wow, it's really exactly what I needed. So that's really what we're working on being consumer-centric. Things that we're seeing different, there are a couple of things that we're seeing different. It's consumer significantly more empowered, is a consumer with significantly more information. All the social media has allowed the consumers to be more informed. That makes the consumer more demanding, the consumer is aware of product benefits that are not even sold in Latin America. So their standards are significantly higher, so that's one thing we're seeing different. The amount of data that we have. I mean, it's a luxury, the amount of data that we have with all the consultant transactions and all the consumer, that we're starting to get data from the consumer that buys to the consultant. Then we're seeing some trends different in beauty. We're seeing the makeup market growing in this world of selfies. Everyone wants to be ready for a picture. So makeup was growing. Now we're seeing skincare. The consumer is more aware on being healthy, looking great. So millennials, Gen Z are getting into the category much sooner as a prevention more than as a correction. And then, we're seeing a proliferation of brands, so we have great players in the beauty market. So the consumer really is the one that has the power today. So it's the one that is choosing, and really looking at the question on how many things are changing, many. I think the one that won't change is the importance of being consumer-centric. That I think is the one that it's going to be valid today and many years to come, and every time will be even more important.
Thank you, Erika. Fernando González.
Well, referring to, let's say, industrial, traditional
businesses. I think the idea of becoming a customer-centric business is a call to action. I think the business-to-business world is lagging behind the demands of consumers in the business-to-consumer world, but it doesn't make it less relevant. So I think the idea of industrial companies engaging basically in ways to focus on the market instead of efficiencies, production, and other things that we need to continue focusing on, but is the way to compete for business in the future. We are in the construction material business, and guess what? The self-builder, the distributor of cement in bags, they are used to buying Amazon. They do listen Spotify. They are engaged, and they have absorbed all type of technologies, and they are demanding those type of services or interactions with industrial companies. That's why we engaged in the last 3 years in developing and putting in place a digital commercial platform. We call it PepsiCo, and it's a quote-to-cash comprehensive way to relate with customers nowadays. So customer centricity, I think is a very old term and idea. Most of the time is more talking than walking on that with that idea. But nowadays it has, I do believe, a completely different meaning because customers are completely different. They think in their experience. They have more and more several options on deciding, and that's what is relevant. When you think nowadays, somebody asking for a mortgage, well, most of companies are not thinking in those terms. Most of companies are thinking in life events in which somebody wants to buy a house. And it happens that needs financing, but it happens that they need a dozen of other issues. So businesses are reconfiguring their strategies and ways to serve these much more demanding customers.
Thank you, Fernando. Now I have a couple of specific questions for each of you. Let me start with Paula Bellizia. Paula, how Microsoft is redefining customer centricity by encouraging empathy, and that's very important, being human-centric.
Yes, so as I was saying before, right, we changed our culture. That was the first thing that our CEO has started to do. We were being seen as a company that knew it all. Everything would be working once you have the Windows platform, right? And today, there is one truth, which is the world is heterogeneous, right? So it's about our ability today, being customer-centric, is our ability to really listen to the customer and within the customer lens, propose what technology can do to really help this company to achieve more. And actually this puts our mission right there, because we rewrote our mission as well, which is to empower every person in every organization to do more through technology. Technology is not at the center. The customer is at the center, right? For me, it's super important to understand as CEMEX partner, for example, how the technology will enable the transformation that you are undergoing. It's not about me, it's not about Microsoft, it is about CEMEX in that case. So at the core of that is empathy, right? Because if you do not truly listen, it's going to be hard for you to apply technology to solve those problems. This is one thing. The other thing is, yes, technology is provoking a lot of change, and the change is bringing us tremendous advantage, right? So Erika, you were talking about the data, having the data as a luxury. And I love one mention that I have been seeing, which is today, there is a cost of not doing what needs to be done in terms of business transformation, right? Which is, for example, not doing what you need to do with your data within the company to serve your customers means that you actually, if you see that in your balance sheet, it could be an asset if you do the right thing, or could be actually something very negative in your results. So that's the way that we have been discussing more and more. This is a journey. I have to tell you that it's not perfect. It's not that you go to sleep and then you are not customer-centric and then the other day you are. It's something that you have to practice every day. And for us, what is being working is really having the culture as a basis of that, a very clear purpose, and then technology will be, our innovation will be in service of our customers. So that's the way that we see.
Thank you, Paula. Fernando, why Cemex decided to embark in a transformation toward being customer-centric? How that can happen?
I think, as I mentioned before, on the one hand, nowadays being customer-centric is different to what it was 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Again, because customers are different. And the reason why we decided to focus on a way, the way we describe it is to develop a superior customer experience enabled by digital technologies. Meaning a way or an experience that is much more superior than what we have offered in the past and much more superior to what our competitors are providing nowadays, which is it's a challenge. In the business of cement, ready mix and aggregates is kind of a challenge. But we thought, or we made two big assumptions in order to make our bet. The first one is that digital technologies and methodologies have proved already being the technologies with the highest power of transforming businesses. And transformation, is such a nice word, but what we have learned in business is that transformation means some new businesses are going to be born, and some other businesses are going to either get irrelevant or die. And very few are going through the transition process into a new type of business definitions. The second assumption is that these transformations most of the time happen on how you serve your customers. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying efficiency or improving ways to produce something are irrelevant. They are very relevant. But what I'm saying is huge, relevant transformations happen in the market. Convenience of buying in Amazon is what's make Amazon in its first steps a success. So under these two assumptions is that we focus in the market, and as I mentioned, we develop a superior customer experience enabled by a platform. I refer already to the platform. What I have not said is that it was a hybrid model, hybrid in the sense of being sure that we develop proper customer journeys, better understanding our customers, and then supporting our sales force in order for them to properly serve them. Basic stuff that we didn't used to make is for instance, measuring systematically the relation of, our relation with customers. So we started using a very simple way to measure it, Net Promoter Score. It sounds very simple, but we didn't used to have it. And as part of this effort, now we have it, and we can track progress, and we can understand, why is it that our customers that might be detractors or customers that are, ambassadors of our products and services. So that is basically what we thought, and that's the transformation process that we are still engaged on doing.
Thank you, Fernando. Erika, how technology is transforming your beauty direct selling business?
I think that technology is not only for technology, really it should be at the service of something, and in our case is how we can use technology to improve the consultant journey experience and the consumer journey experience. And I'll maybe touch on two examples. One of our strategies is how we reinvent the direct selling business. We know 99% of our business is direct selling, so we really want to take the lead on that. And what we know is that in Latin America, the consumer still values a lot direct selling because it's a relationship model. And we as Latins, I mean, we value a lot relationship. And it's also a model that when you're buying your product, you're helping someone else achieve their dreams. So for people, it is like, I'm gonna buy this beauty product to a friend, and I'm helping this friend either pay for education or do some improvement in her home. So it's really something that the consumer does appreciate, and it's a beauty of the model that we're in. Now, the challenges that we have is that the consumers are looking more for immediacy and for a better shopping experience. So what we're doing is using technology to try to solve this pain point of the consumer, how we get immediacy in the direct selling business and how we get a better shopping experience in the direct selling business. So we're empowering the consultant with a new technology that allows her to sell to the consumer anytime during the campaign and any times during the campaign. And then we deliver straight to the consumer. So the consumer, instead of receiving the product, I don't know, any 15 to 20 days, the consumer will receive the product in 2 to 3 days. So that's one thing we're doing. We're also doing e-payments because one of the concerns from the consultant is, I won't sell to anyone because then I won't get paid. Because she can be buying Fred, but not necessarily she's a good payer. So what we're doing is enabling the consultant with e-payments so that the consumer can pay to us and we take the burden out of the consultant. So then we're also helping the consultant to improve the shopping experience with augmented reality, virtual makeup, and so that the consumer can try it on their products without not being in a store. So that's how one of the examples on how technology is helping us. Then I would say data. Data is not only for having data and knowing more about our consumer consultant. The way we're using the data is how we use the data to allow the consultant to develop her business, because we know if she sells more, I mean, she's gonna get more earnings, and then she's gonna get faster to her dreams. And then how we use the data to kind of help the consumer make a better brand choice, because we know if she does a better brand choice, she's gonna get better benefits and she's gonna be more loyal. So it's really, and then of course we're using technology to make our organization more agile and more efficient, but it's more technology at the service of the consultant and at the service of the consumer.
Thank you, Erika. Claudio, what are some ways in which the latest technologies in SAP are helping deliver unique customer experience?
Back to the concept of customer experience, and I think Erika said it well in terms of trying to understand this segment of one, this customer that we need to serve. And we probably all agree on the why we need to do this and what is it that we need to do. The problem starts with the how. And the how is where technology needs to play a role. But you'd be surprised that me coming from the technology world would say this, but you need to be careful that you don't embark yourself in the bleeding edge of technology. You need to use the technology that better fits the needs of your business in a given point. And I would think in very simple terms. The first one is, are you listening to what the customer is saying every day? I'm not talking about doing lengthy surveys. I'm just referring to try to have input from the customer in every single point of contact, easily. The issue is, how do you structure that listening? How do you get it into the way you run your business? If you have that ability, then you can understand what the customer is saying, understand what is going on with that customer. It could be stages in life, as Fernando was mentioning earlier. And then the real question is, how do you act upon it? What do you do to really impact the way you run your business by having listened, understood what the customer is saying, and then make it part of the second nature, the way you run your business. So that's what technology should be able to do, and that's the challenge that we as leaders have, to interpret how to bring the technology to the right place at the right time with the right investment, but with quick results, with fast results.
Thank you, Claudio. Paula Santilli, what is PepsiCo doing to become a customer-centric company, and how technology is making a difference?
It's a completely different world right now. As you know, we have multiple fun brands. We make consumers smile every day, whether it is with Lay's, Doritos, or Gatorade, Quaker. And the way technology has impacted is the consumer that in the past was behind 6 or 7 TV channels and communication to them was very simple, muy unidireccional, no? Today, they are all on the digital social media. So what we have is tribes of consumers. You know, one athlete is not the same as the other. And what we have is Gatorade, for example, engaging directly with a tribe of consumers, sometimes with an individual consumer, oftentimes creating threads of conversation directly with one consumer. So it's quite amazing to think that in today's world, for a CPG company like PepsiCo, the community manager that owns the voice of Doritos, for example, is the person who can engage very correctly with the community and have an impact on the reputation of the company, by the way, no? And these are little conversations, little long threads of conversations that make a big impact in many different ways in our business, in our communities. So yes, it's completely new world out there. We're still learning. We're understanding how to better use the technology internally, which is what many of you have talked about, but also externally. And it's a very, very fun and different world.
Thank you, Paula. Let's start with the second round of individual question. Paula Bellizia, Satya Nadella stated in an interview that Microsoft's job was to meet the unmet and unarticulated needs of customers. Can you expand and give us some concrete example of this?
Yeah, so again, by anticipating, by being able to read the customer needs, the consumer needs, and then us ourselves being able also to innovate, because it's not always that the consumer tells us exactly what they need, right? So it's a mixture between listen to the consumers and at the same time innovate and enchant and surprise, right? So what is the right balance to do that? So internally at Microsoft, we have investing $13 billion every year in innovation. Some of this innovation is translated into real platform, real services, and some of that actually fulfills the pipeline for future innovation. So I think the way that we have been doing that internally is to really be central in terms of what innovation means to us, what kind of investments are we doing. And let me give you one example. So today we are investing a lot of artificial intelligence, right? And why? Because we know that this is central to everyone's strategy here. Well, actually, this is the theme of our panel. So, and artificial intelligence is at the core of the transformation technology-wise, because through that you can deal with, outrageous amount of data that will be humanly impossible to deal without technology. And so that's what we are kind of spreading everything that we are doing in terms of innovation, product lines, services into our cloud, is to build this intelligent cloud that will be able to help our customers to do that. It's not always that the customers come to us like PepsiCo, Cemex, or everyone here to say, no, I need artificial intelligence. No, we have to translate that into our innovation to meet these needs. And it needs to be also a very open approach in terms of the risk-taking, right? Innovation has a lot to do with risk-taking and the learnings that we have in terms of that. Let me tell you one story that I really like in terms of a quick story, in terms of us learning with the innovation for our customers. So not long ago, I think 1 year ago, we launched an algorithm in the net called TIE. And this algorithm was a persona to deal with the social media, to try to understand, capture the sentiments of the social media, and this algorithm would respond to the persons, right, to the people. And actually, in less than 24 hours, this algorithm got, let's say, everything bad in terms of learning from humans and being not well educated, I would say, right? Bad behavior and responding to that. For us, technology-wise, the innovation-wise, was an amazing experiment because the technology was functioning. There was also a huge learning in terms of social integration, right, and social response and social impact. So immediately we took that out. There was a huge learning, but that proved that innovation collectively with the customer hearing, customer listening, will be bringing the innovation that our customers need.
Thank you, Paula. Fernando, what has been the role of technology during this journey and how Cemex people have adapted to this transformation?
Well, I think, I've been hearing several times that technology is not necessarily what is relevant, meaning it is business, it is strategy, and that is true, but my preference is to put both at the same level, because technology is what is enabling new business models. Remember my definition on transformation. So new business models, traditional companies tend to believe that, companies coming from nowhere. I say, no, they know where they are coming from. Perhaps traditional companies don't know where they are coming from. But so it's a balance. I think you say it, Paula. It's a balance because companies are not necessarily technically savvy. I mean, we know, or we used to know, how to make cement, but how to deal with technology was not necessarily a capability embedded in the company. So you need a balance among the two. A different way to say it, or using an analogy, no way for Uber to be born without the technology that made it possible. So that's why I do give the same level to business, reflecting on business strategy, but with a deep knowledge on technology. Because even if you have your technological partners coming to you and you don't have a clear idea, most probably there won't be an effective dialogue on opportunities. In the case of CEMEX, I already said, we do believe that digital technologies are the ones really with the highest power of transforming businesses. And it has been proved, that at least for the last couple of decades. There are other sciences that are very relevant also, in our case, material sciences. But again, you just need to look at wherever in the world. So that is happening. And that's why we made a big bet on that type of transformation. And as you know, bets, at least the one that I know, at least initially, they don't have returns. It is just you have to do what you believe is what you have to do without knowing if there is a return to it. I've been challenged, I've been questioned, why is it that you decided to invest? Because these things are not free, so they cost some money. What is the return? And the example I use, I wonder if it is true, but that's the example that I use. I've been told that Jeff Bezos used to pack books in the floor on his knees. So from there to what we saw this morning in the breakfast with Sunil Gupta. So what was the return of each and every move in transforming Amazon little by little in the last, 20 years? It is not about returns. It's about a bet on how business are going to be successful nowadays and in the future.
Thank you, Fernando. Erika, how are you evolving your talent capabilities and ways of working to lead on digital transformation?
We think talent and culture will be one of the biggest differentiation. I mean, companies are doing relatively similar things in terms of strategy, consumer-centric, digital transformation. In our case, the benefits within the beauty care market. And we believe talent and culture will be the biggest differentiation. And there we're doing a couple of things. One is we're working on reskilling our organization. There are a couple of skills that are needed to execute successfully a strategy, like big data, digital marketing. So we're doing a full reskilling of the organization in different topics depending on the area. We just made an alliance with the General Assembly on digital marketing, so we're working on reskilling. Then we're also working on structure, and we're evolving our structure to one of the agile enterprise. Mm-hmm. And this is a kind of multifunctional teams that are self-led, that have product owners and work on solving a specific pain point of the consumer or the consultant. And they embrace the agile values, principles like customer-centric, prototyping over final product, people over processes, fast learning. So we're working on those two things, reskilling and agile structure.
Perfect. Thank you. Claudio, what do you believe organization needs to do to compete in this experience economy?
Competing is always tough, but in the end, you have to start by doing the basics right and understanding where you are in a given point in time. Obviously, we already talked a lot about technology, so I'm not going to focus on technology again. Erika just mentioned talent, and talent makes a difference. I'm a true believer that if you build the right team, the team will take you to places that you never thought that you could get to. And in some way, teamwork is at the same level that strategy is. So in all of this, what's the role of the CEO? What is the CEO expected to do? And in this multitude of options, customers that have many, many different ways of getting products and services, typically many ways to getting your own product. Different sources of your inputs. Economy is changing very fast, and most of us focused in Latin America. We know crisis is what we consume every day. You have to have the right balance, and the right balance is not getting stuck in a vision, not getting focused on a given technology, not thinking that the way that you used to do things is the right way, but just creating the mindset that allows you to think differently every day. In the previous panel, to talk about bringing millennials into the equation, we're at SAP starting an experiment this weekend, which is having a millennial board. So it's a board of millennial employees that meet in parallel to the executive board of the company and tackle similar topics and try to get a different perspective. The objective is at the end of the day, you would have this cross-pollination that would allow you to make the right decisions. So I don't know what the answer is to your question, but I know that it's in the hands of the CEOs, and it's the worst time around to have to lead an organization with the kind of challenges that are out there. And hopefully we as technology providers can help a little bit.
Thank you, Claudio. Paula, given the large footprint of PepsiCo Latin America, how is technology playing a critical role within its supply chain?
Ooh, massive role in supply chain, right? How do we put everything together? That's the idea. Listen, we are a huge agro-industrial company, so it starts with farming in our business, And the way technology is changing around all Latin America, our use of water, our use of fertilizers, etc., has been massive. And again, to this concept of it has been able to create growth at the bottom of the pyramid in Latin America. That is what is so enthusiastic about this, So when we fly drones on our farms of potatoes, and we know exactly where to water the potatoes and where to avoid watering the potatoes, our small growers are having the benefit of correctly using a very scarce resource in LATAM and saving money and being very careful with the environment. So only the crops that need the water will receive the water. The rest will save for the rest. So this has created incredible amount of conscious awareness on the use of resources and incredible partnership with very small agro workers. And then it's fleet movement, for example. So we have dangerous areas in Latin America. Now we have control towers in almost every country saying, you're going to have to take a detour because we have an unsafe situation in this little town. So take the other route. And we are able to give continuity to the supply chain because we have very specific control towers technologically based on safety, for example. And then we have demand planning and forecast accuracy and everything. Great partners help us figure out how do we secure a very healthy supply chain, mitigating the waste, for example, making it a lot faster, making the right inventories sit at the right location. That's a huge art and science, let me tell you. So we are seeing our whole supply chain completely transformed. Part of the big challenge that we have as companies and partners in the technological arena is how do we connect what up to now has been unconnected data management and software to make a whole integrated digital value chain much more agile, less more cost efficient, more productive for everyone, from the small little lady that is growing some of our ingredients to the large retailers.
Thank you, Paula. Excellent. Now, I believe it's very relevant to discuss how a business leader like you eventually might influence customer-centric company cultures that permeate across the entire organization. It's a very personal question. Let me start with you, Erika.
I think role modeling. I think in leadership, there's nothing else like role modeling. So I think the moment that people see the amount of time you invest on listening to consumers, the type of questions you ask in a meeting, like, okay, tell me what's a consumer pain point we're solving, what's the consumer needs, what's undiscovered insight that we learn. I think that the company at the end kind of follows. Of course, we're doing more investment in research. We're kind of training people on how to better listen to consumers, how close they need to be. But I think there's nothing more powerful than role modeling.
I was saying role model. What's your perspective, Claudio?
Oh, at the end is, first of all, staying curious, creating an environment that is diverse and inclusive. From diversity brings different perspectives, which adds significant value to the conversation. Be willing to run risks. When a team member succeeds, it's him or her a success. If it's failure, it's us. It's a failure of the team. It's okay to take risks. It's okay to try new things. But in the end, be very sensitive to the fact that you have an objective, which is a complex objective, because you have to be accountable for the results for your shareholder, but at the same time you have to be very sensitive to the needs of the community that you participate in. And if you are an enterprise that just focuses on one of those two things, you're never going to be successful. And your consumers will demand you to be a player that is capable of dealing with providing the right products and services at the right time with the right price and creating the right experience. But at the same time, you live in a community and you need to participate and be careful on what you do.
Thank you. Fernando?
Well, let me refer to the very challenging learning process companies, particularly large companies, have to go through in order to engage in a transformation process. And what we have found is that there is a sort of a first stage, which might be the most challenging one, because it's a stage in which you don't know that you don't know. And when you don't know that you don't know, how you solve that. So that's the most challenging, and I will define that as a first step in transformation processes, at least again in business-to-business traditional industries. But again, there are so many obvious things, around that you have to suspect that as a traditional company, there are tons and tons of issues that the company doesn't know, capabilities that are needed in order not only to survive, but to find ways to create value in the future. So I think all the challenges we went through, and we are still going through in CEMEX, are precisely dealing with knowledge and culture. I was told during the break of a company that the CEO locked up a number of executives in a room in order to learn. Well, those are the type of things you have to do to change your knowledge and culture in the company.
Thank you, Fernando. Paula Santilli, what's your perspective about it?
I think we have to altogether embrace knowledge with our frontline, whether it's sales or operations, both. When a lady in one of our plants that was basically doing manual work, and all of a sudden has developed and learned how to run 12 robots, that's a huge cultural development that we have to exploit to the best of our abilities in Latin America, because we are giving our people better jobs, better opportunities, more knowledge management in the hands of the citizens of Latin America is an amazing, amazing power. So we have the obligation as leaders to lead from the back, to lead from the bottom of the pyramid to create this growth opportunity for everyone around Latin America.
Well, and our last minute before your question, guys, is for Paula Bellizia.
Yeah.
Paula.
So I agree with everything that has been said. I don't believe it's one silver bullet. Having said that, one addition, I think it's the walk the talk. Right, because it's super easy for you as a leader to say what needs to be done, and then people will look at you and you have to be acting accordingly. So one example that we are at Microsoft today reskilling our entire workforce internally, because we heard the customers that we need to be more technical. So one of the things that we just did this week, my team, my entire leadership team, we stopped for 2 days and we actually went to the school and we went to be certified, because we want the entire team to get certified. We started ourselves. So I think the walk the talk and be able to also to listen not only to the customers, but to your employees. I think the employees is a very important part of things that needs to be done. And it's not one person. It's the entire organization, and then you move the ecosystem, and then you get things done. So I truly believe in leadership by example. So
We ran out of time, but Isabel de Quesada is going to kill me, but I'm going to just allow one question for the audience. So who wants to ask anything, please?
Very shy.
You're a little bit shy, eh? Well, thank you for attending. We really appreciate your interest on this very important issue. And please, an applause for this great panel. Thank you once again to the Council of America for this opportunity, for this invitation. See you soon. Bye.